There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight with our chat about home learning at CIS. And we're meeting with 4 different parents. So I'll let you introduce yourself. And I'd like you to introduce yourself shortly. My name is Martin Thomas. I'm the elementary principal. Leanne.
I'm Leanne Wright-Gray. I'm the elementary assistant principal.
And we would like to hear from you guys and introduce yourself and how is your family doing in this time of transition and Cayman Island, here in Cayman Islands. I guess we can't go in order because we're all in a different order on the screen. Penelope, how about you start? You're first on.
All right. My name's Penelope Wunsch. I have 2 boys at CIS, Fox and Felix, and they're in grade 4 and 5. So I am the primary tutor at home. My husband is working from home as well, as am I. So I've taken the primary role of tutor, and he's my backup support. So we're on I think we're day 4 or day 5. I've lost track now.
Yep.
But I'm looking forward to hearing everyone else's thoughts and feedback on how they're doing.
And how are you doing in day 6? Or
I'm putting on a brave face.
Good.
Yeah. I'm pretty tough for most things. Like I went through Hurricane Ivan and it was hard, but this is really weird. It's not like anything we've had before. On the bonus side, if there is a bonus side, I would say I've always wanted to be a fly on the wall in my kids' classroom and see what they were up to. And now I really get that chance to see what they're doing all day long. And it's really hard. I have a new respect for the teachers. I cannot believe how much they pack into one day. I'm struggling to get through like 2 or 3 lessons.
Yeah.
It's really exhausting. I find that by the end of the day, we're all super tired. We're trying to juggle so many things. I'm working from home. My helper that I normally have to support us 2 in the house, she has to stay at home too. So suddenly that's one member of our family that is not available to us anymore, and so I'm learning her job as well. It's just a lot. I think we have a lot of support from the neighbors nearby who also have children at CIS, which is great to have that community support. I just think it's kind of a new world for us, so every day we're learning, and the first few days the first week, it's been a lot of tears, a lot.
Thank you.
It's been tough, but we're just making progress each day. We're just try and breathe. And if we need to, don't feel so much pressure to sort of get everything done. Just take a breather. Today we went out in the garden and we picked flowers and walked around, did an art project, which was so great just to step away from the computer screens.
Yeah.
I think it's just listening to the children and where they're at as well. I'm trying to do that more instead of just getting them through the classes. So
thank you, Penelope.
You're
Maeve.
Hi.
Hi.
So my name is Maeve. I'm mom to 4 children at CIS, twins in grade 1, Ben in grade 3, and Danny in grade 6. And I'm an eye surgeon, and my office closed about 10 days ago. So I'm trying to juggle between patients emailing me for prescriptions and all of that stuff, and the 4 kids like shouting in my ear. But on the whole, I have to say, because as an eye surgeon, I'm not really on the front line a lot of my stuff is elective. I've been pretty much able to zone in on the kids for the last while, and like Penelope, I definitely have a new respect for what teachers do, because it's tough, actually. I have seen my children in a different way, definitely. I've seen how distractible they are, how sort of, I don't know, I mean, I have learned more in that respect than I did before. Initially, I, like Penelope, felt like I had to do everything, and like was very strict and was like very dictator-like in the way I was conducting them, or I felt like I had to be anyway with 4 of them. But now I'm kind of, maybe it's because they're learning as well how to do things, and they've kind of learned like how to get around the Google Classroom or Seesaw, or it's becoming easier for them. So they're becoming a bit more self-sufficient, I have found, in the last few days. I think Seesaw is great. They love like the uploading. They love anything that involves teacher appreciation back to them. It's like, if we can, let's see what Miss Christine said, or what the Spanish teacher today said, or it's and also the interaction with their own classmates. They did that once. Well, Ben did it in grade 3 once this week, and he loved that. Mm-hmm. So overall, it's getting easier. I'm kind of going, well, you know what, the rest of the world is facing the very same challenges. So what if we're going to be behind? Everybody else is in the same boat, and they'll make it up next year, even if we don't get it all done this time. So that's kind of my attitude now, anyway.
Great, thank you very much, Carmen. Here you go. Turn on the mic.
I'm Carmen, and I have 3 boys in grades 2, 3, 4. Xavier is in grade 2, Eric is in grade 3, and Julien is in grade 4. I'm a dental hygienist primarily, so I also do some other things as well. But so our office closed the same day that the school closed, and so I was able to take on the schooling full time. My husband, that same day, we made a family decision for him to work from home. So we're pretty blessed that he already has his own office in our house. And he's actually in his busy season, and he's been a lot more efficient. So he has actually more time for us than the typical busy season. I did feel quite overwhelmed with the schooling initially, and I did give some feedback, and I did notice like changes. I do feel blessed that we're in the position we are in this country. I feel blessed that we are at the school that we're at, that we have this system available to us, this technology available to us, and the dedication of the teachers, and that the feedback is genuinely heard, and the response is pretty swift. So I feel appreciative of that. Our family's doing pretty well. We've been focusing mostly on physical and mental health. So we have been focusing on how to get our vitamin D and eating properly, and doing a lot of fitness, and talking about what is going well, what we're feeling, what we'd like to change, what we're worried about, things like that. So I feel like overall, even though sometimes government throws something major at you and we all get a little a big speed bump in the road, I feel like overall we're doing pretty well. There are some random emotional outbursts that happen with the kids, but they're very few and far between, and they're able to talk through them pretty quickly. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much. Joe, how are you?
Hi, my name's Joe. I have 4 kids at CIS, grade 1, grade 4, grade 7, and grade 10. I'll have to be honest, the grade 7 and 10, I'm not involved as much with their work. I touch it, occasionally during the day. I'll see what courses they're doing, see what their content is, but I don't go much deeper than that. I just make sure that if they have any questions, they ask me, and then we can ask the teachers, or which we actually really haven't had. Actually, the grade 10, my daughter, her classes are very interactive with the delivery of information. So there are a lot of meetings and things like that. So she's really, to be honest, I think she's quite enjoying all that interaction, being able to see her classmates, things like that. especially introduction with the Google Meet that you implemented this week with the younger ones too. So my grade 4 is now has that experience, and like Carmen said, she touched earlier, I believe it was Carmen, that the kids' emotional state during the meeting is just it's like night and day. They just love that meeting. They love seeing their friends. They like, talking with their friends. So that interaction, I mean, we have a few groups with social media that we'll do chats with the kids for the younger ones especially. But I find myself, I sit down at the table in the mornings. It's a lot different. I'm since we've been offshore, I'm a stay-at-home parent because we were able to do that, afford to do that. So my situation's a little bit different. I'm really enjoying this experience. I don't get me wrong. First day, I was more afraid than the kids were. I mean, I didn't know how I was going to deal with this, the information, how it was being delivered. I'm jumping on computers. I got one I'm on an iPad, the other one I'm on a Chromebook. I'm jumping back and forth, and I really relied on my children who actually work with these in class to, navigate me through their different things. But the teachers, or however your IT program working with your teachers, the delivery's been really good, because the websites or the actual teacher sites, I should say, the teachers have made it quite simple, stupid for us by giving us the links for everything that they want, all the additional websites for support. I mean, it's all been there. And I've really embraced this. Like, I know my kids' shortcomings. I know that. I'll be the first one to admit it. I know they're not. Their English is where they need the most information or the most help, and that's what I do for a lot of the day. But it's not just English. So we'll do writing, and we'll do stories, coming up with stories, and writing essays, and all these different things. So I'm really using the time to my advantage to really hit where my kids need the most help. I'm still, I'm still managing with all the requirements, like course requirements, math, and the actual assignments that are due. I think from the teacher's perspective, I think that's more of I use that more like a template for what I need to get done. But I don't stress over that template. I know and don't get me wrong, I mean, my kids that come like 10 o'clock in the morning, they're like, can you kick us out? Can you kick us out? They call it kicking out, because I always say, I'm kicking you out of the house. Just get out of the house, go play, and then come back. I'll get you in 20 minutes type thing. So aside from that, I really, the feedback with the teachers, they're so responsive. Within minutes, I get feedback. And whether it be from you, I've even used your IT support for technical issues. So I've had that. I've used my teachers, classroom teachers. So it's been really good for me. And so my experience is a lot different. I've really enjoyed this. Actually, I'm really going to miss them when they go back to school, to be absolutely honest. But, so far, so good. Workload, I'm comfortable with the workload. Like, I don't find it too much. I start around 8:30 in the morning with the children, actually sitting down in front of their devices, and we'll finish about, some days we go actually till 2 in the afternoon. Wow. But I'll break them up around 10:30 and noon to give them like maybe 15 to a half an hour breaks. Wow. But aside from that, we're bouncing back and forth, and it's been working out really well for us.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Now, you kind of all touched on my first question. Actually, you answered it, which is, how is home learning going for you in the house? So we don't have to ask that. Maybe you each touched on a little bit about how your role has shifted. Maybe in short answers, we could talk. You could identify, since we've been doing home learning, how is your role different or intensified in what specific area? If you remember at the beginning, I presented the little slide that said facilitate, guide, or support, right? Maybe those words ring a bell. In what area do you feel like your role has completely changed? We could just open up the conversation. Or has it changed?
If I'm to go first, no, absolutely. I mean, my role is entirely different than what it was. It's never been this before. I mean, I'm the one now having to deliver all that information to the children. I'm having to explain it, and one, I need to understand it. I need to see where they are, because we're just thrown into the middle. It's not like we chose, or it's not like an online course where you start at the beginning and you get all this information and this is where we're going to go through the course. We're just thrown into it. So, to be honest, I mean, throughout the school year, I have a step back approach, letting the teachers, and I'm just making sure that the homework's done and everything like that. So laissez-faire, but I mean, we're still doing homework in the evening, but not to the extent now that I found a new appreciation. I'm actually having to deliver this information to the children. I mean, even though it's presented to me, I think, through the website and what is or through how the teachers are presenting it to us. But now that I'm having to sit down and be the teacher to the child, and I'll be the first one to admit, I don't have the patience of a saint. So I get frustrated when my children just don't perform. And I know Carmen had earlier said, she's an overachiever, and she, instills that on her children. And I feel the same way. I'm just like, why don't you understand this? I mean, I'm having to understand why my grade 1 just doesn't understand this. And I have to get into that frame of mind. And I really do appreciate how these teachers attack. And never mind just one child. I mean, can you imagine all the children that they deal with on a day-to-day basis? But it's me being the teacher is I feel that's my role now. I'm the teacher.
Like the teacher.
Absolutely.
Explain. Sorry. You said explain and deliver the content, which are two good verbs for. Does anybody else want to share their role? How is their role different?
Well, I think as a parent, your expectation of your child is probably more than the teacher would necessarily have, because if the child doesn't get something, sometimes I feel like that must be a reflection of me, or of my genetics or something like that, and then I can see, say for instance, very interesting with having twins who are doing exactly the same program. And Sophie will get up in the morning and she'll want to do something to start quicker than Robbie, so she's ahead of him, and then she'll come and try and instruct him and kind of almost like be the teacher to him. It's very funny. And yet, there are certain things that he will get so much quicker than she will get. And, it's actually really interesting how they learn. And I've thought about this, like, how the teachers must feel. Maybe do they get frustrated like I do if they don't get something? But then I realized that it's probably more a reflection of me and my closeness to them that makes me frustrated. And I think in that respect, that makes it a little harder when you're the parent as a teacher. That would be my thought.
Very good. Oh, I'll unmute. I muted you before. I'll unmute. Yeah.
I think for me, just getting everything done. Like Joe said, being the facilitator. Also what Maeve touched on about our emotional connection to their performance, and our own expectations. For me, I have one child who he has dysgraphia, and so he needs a lot more attention to actually get the work done in that. He has accommodations at school, and now it's switched to like me being the learning support person for that. And then my child who's in grade 2, the second I turn my back, he's like doing anything but schoolwork. And so it's been, I said to someone earlier that it's triage. You have to, just because someone needs your attention doesn't mean that they need you most. Kind of have to triage what's going on. And I've gotten better at looking at all of their work ahead of time before they get to it in the morning, so that I know, okay, if I can't be sitting with them, what can I get them to do that they're going to do independently? So it's a lot of juggling, and a lot of grace, and sometimes just expectations of myself that I'm not a teacher. I never had a desire to be a teacher, I do appreciate teachers before this and even more since this experience, but also the grace that, you know, those teachers also, if they stepped into my profession, they would have a challenge in my profession as well. So just that reminder gives me a little bit of grace for myself, that I'm not supposed to be perfect at this.
No. Penelope, I muted you before to unmute you there. Thank you so much.
One of the interesting things is that they really seem to be attached to a routine. So they keep saying things like, this is not how we do it at school. Our routine at school, we have recess at this time and we do this at this time. And now we should be taking a break and we should be doing this. And trying to transition them from the school routine into the homeschool routine where we have our own schedule. It's a little bit different. I started off with a really fancy Excel spreadsheet schedule, all color-coded with how everything was going to go. And I kind of tossed that out the window today and created a really simple format for them. I was really pleased with myself. I had one day I didn't have much work and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get it all done. And, you know, I sent out to a few friends and said, here, you know, you could use this. And then today I was like, forget it. It was a bit like when I did my Disney schedule for the Disney trip, forget it. When you actually get to the reality of the day, trying to, I mean, I was still in my pajamas this afternoon. I didn't even get breakfast till 11 o'clock. I really realized I'm going to have to take the responsibility to get up much earlier and get myself organized, because once they hit that desk at 8:15 or log in or whatever, the time's going really fast. So today I redid their schedule and created something really simple for them. I didn't tell them, you know, we were struggling like which lesson should they do first? Should they start with math and then, you know, what's the flow that they use in the classroom that makes sense? They were picking and choosing all the easy stuff and then leaving all the hard stuff till later on in the day, and then we weren't getting to it. So I tried to let that go today and just give them a really simple schedule where, you know, between this hour and this hour, you can choose your assignment, but focus on what was probably due today. It's been kind of hard because I felt, you know, both my children are different. One is loving it and I hardly have to pay attention to what he's doing because he has completely grasped the technology and everything. And my other child just needs to be handheld through every single lesson. I pretty much have to sit with him and explain back and forth how to do this and how to do that. So today I thought too, I need to let go of trying to help him through every little thing and let him figure it out for himself. And if he doesn't figure it out, let him ask his teacher, who's totally available, like Joe said, like they are coming back to you really quickly, WhatsApp or email. Let him ask the question and sort it out for himself. And if he doesn't get his assignment in when it's due, that's okay. Like the teacher will come back and help him through it. I don't have to feel responsible. I kind of felt like this tidal wave every day, a new set of slides of assignments was coming in. I felt like I haven't done the ones from 2 days before. And I felt like I was doing like the assignments myself, even though, you know, I felt responsible for getting everything done. And we're 3 days in and we still haven't done day one yet, half of it anyway. So today I just kind of tried to let that go a little bit and say, we'll just get done what we can get done in a day. And if some days we finish at noon, so be it. And other days we might go through till about 2. And just really see how they're feeling, because their emotions are like a bit of a roller coaster right now. And we've had tears, and I think for me, they're really missing their friends and the connection that they have in the classroom. And as much as they love being with their mom every day, today I was told, you're a terrible teacher. I miss my real teacher. I tried to ignore it and just move on. I think they really miss the community of the classroom. Having the Google Meet session is probably the highlight of their day, because
let me interject, because I think that's the next segment. I'd like Leanne to talk about the role of the teacher as well. But before we get to that, really short, you're touching on the next thing in that
Okay.
as parents, I heard all these things: facilitate the schedule, guide, explain, and do the lesson. I heard support, the emotional support. You're dealing with all these, but it's really intensified, and you're the only provider of that. The teachers can't be a part of that anymore. But what you started to touch about Google Meets and community and connections, and right now that's hard, but there is a plan for us to roll that out in all levels. It's really tech support availability right now. We could do it, but we're learning those things as well. What other things, really quickly, do your children need? Like what are the pieces that you feel are the best for them right now in the program that we're delivering?
I mean, for me, I think that little morning video is great, but it's not enough. Like they could do with, a longer video in the morning, even a song or something funny, or a little funny video interjected here and there, because I've just felt some of the task work is a little dry. Like it's just going through the math book to the next assignment or whatever. And they need that little bit of relief in between.
Okay.
So even if it was click here for a funny joke, or just a blooper video from some of the teachers singing a song or a funny dance or something to break up that thing and make them feel connected back to their class again.
Thank you. Does anybody else have something? Yeah. Oh, sorry, I got you again, Carmen. There you go. Go ahead.
I feel that our teachers, for my 3 children, each of them have done sort of little cute things that I realized were regular things they would do in the class. Like, for example, one names different days of the week, like Wacky Wednesday, and then they all got like wacky hats on. Or, our teachers were connecting back to the regular routines in the classroom. Another teacher had like a drawing competition and drew a different part, like every day added to the drawing, and the kids could guess what the drawing was. And so I agree that those little things that aren't teaching, they're just kind of cute social pieces, even if they're just small. My kids have really connected with that.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, no, if I can, I would definitely second that. I mean, because the kids already have developed such a relationship with their teachers, and they look up to them, and they look for their gratification and their support and everything. And then that morning video, their eyes just light up when they have their teacher giving that little message. And if the teachers could perhaps, especially with the younger ones, I'm sure that doesn't happen with the older ones, but the younger ones, especially my grade 1 and my grade 4, if the teachers could do, even if it stretches to like 3 or 4 minutes, where, because they really love that personal aspect of it. They like to, like, our teacher, she brought her dog in there, and she was rubbing her dog, and my son was just so enthralled with it. He was just so excited. So just that personal, he feels like he's there with her. And, even though she's not addressing anyone, well, she does address people by their names also too in the assignments, but actually in that little personal meeting, that video, if they could make that a little bit longer, and it gives that my child that connection a little bit more every morning, I mean, that would be great.
Yeah, you're all focusing on one thing that is really becoming clear after 5 days, is this idea of character and community. We've not touched on that, and partly it's because the communication, the way we started, was there was no connection, no email to the students, and the technology was a struggle. But I think you're touching on what we are feeling as well as a school. Maeve, do you have anything that your children really connect and identify with and love? Oh, one sec, Maeve, sorry. Unmute. There you go. Go ahead. Oh, wait. We're doing it to each other. Here we go. Go for it.
My older one has the Google Meet, so and you can see the difference in that he doesn't have the same sense of isolation, I think, compared to the others. And the grade 3, there was this little like bird video that they just loved during the week, and all of them watched it, which was on the grade. So yeah, I agree. Sometimes I think I'm not sure personally whether the lengthening the morning video is necessarily the right thing. Whether maybe they intersperse it with a second video midway through the slides or at the end or something, that sort of gives them a sense that you actually have to do this amount of work first, and then you have the treat of seeing somebody midway through. Or I don't know, it's just sometimes they're so like ready to go in the morning that they literally like they listen for a while and then they move on. You know, it's kind of a delicate balance, I think, on that one.
Yeah, well, that's very interesting. And Leanne, we've been a part of this journey over 6 days, seeing both sides of it. And not only has the parents' role shifted fundamentally, but think of the teachers who trained for 5 years in university to be a face-to-face dynamic teacher, engage with students, have these routines. Not a digital graphic designer designing websites and links and moving slides around in order to be able to communicate a basic message and not be connected to their children. So their role has shifted fundamentally as well. Could you maybe share a little bit about how that shifted and the process on our end as a school? Oh, I muted you. See, I'm good at muting. There you go.
Okay, I'm good.
It's good etiquette. It's good. We're learning video conference etiquette.
That's right. It's all a learning curve for everyone. I think what's difficult for the teachers is the other side of the coin to what the parents are saying. Because to teach someone, you need to know they're learning well. And you can't know they're learning well if you don't have a connection. And so while they've built that over the year already and over many years in some cases, right now they're trying to build learning, to build understanding, and they've no idea how it's being received. And they're also very concerned. You know, they've let these kids go very suddenly, very abruptly. They had things in place, plans in place. We have report cards coming up. You know, we're getting towards the last quarter of the year. They want to make sure their students are learning and showing growth. And so having this catastrophe thrown at them where now all of a sudden they can't ensure that, you know, they're just feeling very anxious, as we all are feeling. And so the role has shifted to one where I'm now unable to be in front of my kids. I can no longer tell if they're learning very well. I can no longer facilitate any misconceptions or any lack of understanding that they might be having. I have to trust somehow that that's going to get done. And I have to try and make my feedback, as little as it can be digitally, somehow meaningful. So that's a really, really big challenge for a teacher who's used to having all kinds of proxies for learning in the classroom, a facial expression or a comment, you know, and the technology, even in Google Meets, gets in the way of that. You know, Google Meets is certainly better than nothing, but it's even having this conversation now. I'm wanting to peer very closely to see what does someone's eyes look like? Are they understanding what I'm saying? Are they responding? And teachers, that's how they connect, right? That's how they connect with the understanding that kids are getting. So in terms of how their role has changed, it's a very different thing to teach online. It's a very different thing to take lessons that you have created to teach in person and suddenly have to translate them into a digital format. In terms of the learning sequence, in terms of single lessons and trying to build understanding within a single lesson, in terms of how a parent, you know, you're getting this kind of nugget of a lesson which necessarily has to be shortened in the medium that we're presenting it in. And we're hoping that you can understand the gist of what the learning goal was, even never how the learning sequence develops over time. So that's been very difficult, and you can see some of the changes in the way the lessons are being presented, I hope, in terms of how they're trying to sequence the instruction over time within a single lesson. So that's been hard. I can also say, as an assistant principal in my own house, my role has shifted because my own kid doesn't listen to me at all. You know, we're sort of used to having a little bit of street cred with the children, and here I am trying to teach a math lesson that I've taught 50 times before, and I can't get them to do it. So it's very frustrating, and I can feel your pain on that one.
That's great. So we've seen how our roles are shifting, teachers and parents, and with us being able to do our job, we have to feel capable to do our job. And so I think right now it's 6 days in. It'll be interesting to see in 10, 15, 20 days from now if we're feeling more efficacious or able to do our job. So this is going to be an interesting process to go through. We have at least till April 27th here on the island to be doing this together. I think some of the positives are that these conversations have been happening with teachers, and it's kind of this balancing and understanding. The more we communicate, the better our expectations and the process will come together in the end. And so as a school, we've been listening, and some of the things that we are working towards obviously is Google Meets at all levels. Having, I think right now, our sense of urgency for students to get connected with each other, the way the classroom was, and a sense of community. And so this week, grades 3 to 5 took the leap. We had the technology support for them. We've developed guidelines and procedures on the fly and trained those who were uncomfortable. Next week and the week after, we hope to transition all of K to 2 into Google Meets. And those might be simpler because, again, to do that, we have to put most of the onus on a kindergarten parent, on them to connect at the right time and connect with the technology, I think. And so we're trying to balance that. But a good read aloud, a nice morning meeting, see everyone like this on a screen, how much would the child enjoy that from K to 2? Another thing next week we have planned is a read-in day. So the teachers have just been going and not taking care of themselves in the middle of increased curfews. And again, one of the things we're seeing is language and literacy is kind of important. And we're going with content and not focusing on that. So we're going to take Wednesday next week and we're going to do a read-in day where the administrators make some fun videos, because we haven't seen the kids and they haven't seen us. And we read aloud some books and we go through a series of slides with book recommendations, and it's a day of focused on reading. And we used to do that, afternoons read-ins at school. So that'll give the teachers a break from responding to parent emails and student requests, and let them regather, regroup, learn some new things. And I think that's going to be, so we're thinking of these fun ideas for us to keep mixing it up a little bit and building that community as we move into next week. Any last words? This is a great conversation, and I hope some of our community watches it, because I think we can all identify with the things that are going on in your lives. I appreciate you all coming, because you all have multiple children, and so we know that it can't be easy for you being the single facilitator at home and in this role. And so we appreciate your insight, your positivity, your support, all that you do and all the parents are doing right now. Like someone had mentioned, we started this journey worrying about getting to the other side of the mountain and before sunset. We wanted the children to, we took them on a field trip. I use this analogy. We took them on a field trip and we had to get to the other side of the mountain before sunset because we wanted them to learn and be at the end of grade level. Well, as this crisis continues, we realize no child in the world is really going to be at grade level at the end of this. So it's okay that we're not going to get there by sunset. We have the resources to buckle down and set up base camp and take care of each other. And really, we have the technology, our tents, we're okay. So slow down, walk slower, step by step together. What would we do in that case if we had your kids on a field trip? We'd call you, we'd see if you're okay. And so that's what we're trying to do right now. We realize just a week in that that's an important phase of this. So we appreciate all your support. Any last words as we sign off and send this into cyberspace, and hopefully others can take something from this and feel like they're doing a good job and are going to continue to do a good job and get better at it.
I just wanted to congratulate CIS, to be honest, on what you've rolled out. It's amazing, and you should be very, very proud of what you've achieved. I'm the first to complain when things aren't right, but I'm also the first to give credit when credit's due, and it's been awesome, and my kids have really enjoyed it, and it's definitely made my job easier. So
thank you very much.
That's pretty much echoes what I was going to say. Is I just really feel blessed to have this school on board for my children's learning, and all the work that you guys are putting in, and how rapidly it has come about, and how everybody's been on board, responsive. It's just amazing. We are really fortunate to have this as for our children and for ourselves.
Thank you. Joe?
Yeah, definitely a kudos to you guys for, you know, what you've accomplished in such little time. I mean, I know we had a meeting like what 3-4 days before this even happened, and it just, you know, it's so silly. We were all sitting there talking about it, and then it just happened, and you just had, even though you were preparing, you just had no time. And for what you've done so far and what you've set up for us, I mean, it's just, seriously, I mean, you know, hats off to you guys, because you've really done, and I know it's still going on, I mean, behind the scene, what you guys are doing, but so far I've really embraced it, and I'm really happy with what you guys delivered to us so far.
You, Joe?
I would say the same thing too. One thing I was thinking, which could be helpful for parents, because I've never felt so dumb in all my life, when we're taken back to learn math and other things I've completely forgotten since I don't remember how many years ago, is it might be good to have like a little prep session for parents to give a bit of background on some of the topics that they're studying for the kids. For example, we're jumping right into the middle of these things. The kids know, but some of them have forgotten. You know, we started learning ancient Rome or whatever it is, like just so that we have an overview of what this topic is and where we're trying to get to. So we have a bit of background, because sometimes they've forgotten. And today we had that, and he's like, I can't remember when we started learning that, or why we're doing this. And I don't know either, so I can't help him. And he's like, why don't you know this? And so a little coaching sometimes for the parents, so we can help them when you're not available, so we don't feel, I guess, so stupid. I mean, I've just never felt.
But they don't find out that we really don't know.
Yeah. And then one other thing I was thinking could be fun is like virtual field trips where they, you know, I like a lot of the zoos and things are doing live feeds and stuff like that. So maybe we could do something like that where they get to go with their class on a virtual field trip or something. So it breaks up the day.
Yeah, you know, be adventurous instead of just thinking we have to get through things. Slow down and change the pace. Like next week's weekend, just drop everything and do something very interesting for the day. It's a good idea.
Or a show and tell. You know, they're at home, so they can show their pet. Bring your pet to school one day. They can actually really do that. You know, it was like stop to school. Now they can.
All I can say is at any other time in this universe, this might not have been possible. The free technology that we're able to use and take advantage of, and the quality, it's incredible. And so, and that we're all lucky to have that technology. I know there's some schools and students in the world that don't have that right now. So we're definitely blessed in that regard. And so I think I appreciate all your words of gratitude and support, and I direct them and I throw them right at our teachers, because they are soldiers and heroes for the work that they do in the time that Cayman and the world is going through right now. And it's been hard on them, and we really we're proud of them and we love them. And I know that when they do connect with their students, they'll see the difference they're making, which is what we're all in this for, right? We're in this for the children.
I would also thank the parents, both on this panel and just the parents in the community generally, because not only are they rolling up their sleeves and becoming teachers at very short notice, but they're also working with us to make this program better. It's really, really easy to complain behind the scenes, and it's a lot harder to take an hour at 8 o'clock on a Thursday night when you've been teaching and working full time to give us some real feedback that we can work with to make things better. So thank you for your time and just caring about the program.
Thank you. And just so everyone knows how this panel was formed, most of you sent us emails this week. We did get your emails, so we weren't afraid to invite the people that had the most opinions, and so it wasn't just the people that are doing well. And I really appreciate your emails. So do the teachers. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking your time tonight. I'm going to stop the video now, and I really appreciate you coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
A wonderful conversation.